Imagine being moments from execution when two long-dead saints appear in a dream and change the course of an empire. This is the story of Emperor Justinian and a building that became a testament to survival. Hidden away in the historic peninsula of Istanbul, a short walk away from the Hagia Sophia, is the Little Hagia Sophia, or the Church of Sergius and Bacchus, a 1500-year-old monument that most tourists just walk past. But for those who know its secrets, it isn't just any old building. It's a living piece of history where Byzantine dreams, imperial intrigue, and architectural marvel combine. And the best part? It's completely free to visit, tucked away in the city, just minutes from most of the major attractions. To understand its story, we need to step back to around 520 AD, a critical moment in the Eastern Roman Empire, what we call today the Byzantine Empire. Only 50 years ago, Rome and the Western Roman Empire had fallen. Constantinople had become the new center of Roman power. Byzantines still considered themselves Romans. This was a complex, multicultural empire fighting for survival. Justinian was not yet emperor. He'd been adopted by his uncle, the then Emperor Justin, living in a world of constant political danger. He was heir to the throne and would be next to rise to power. The empire was squeezed between the Persian armies to the east, religious conflicts tearing apart the Christian communities, and the constant struggle to maintain control over a vast and fractious territory. And in the midst of this turbulent world, one man's dream would create a building that would outlast this civilization. As the story goes, Justinian was set to inherit his adopted uncle's throne as emperor. But he had been convicted of treason and sentenced to death. The night before the execution, in bed, the emperor Justin, his uncle, was visited by two long-dead Roman soldiers, Sergius and Bacchus. We'll come back to them in a bit. They vouched for his innocence, and by the morning, Justinian was free and reinstated in his position as Caesar, next in line to the throne. Justinian was so thankful that he promised to create a church once he was emperor in the name of the saints. Now, while this is a great story, it's more of a fable really that was created after Justinian's reign. But the real setting is just as dramatic. This was Constantinople, a place of opportunity and sudden, violent changes. Justinian would take the throne a few years later and become a great leader, with names such as Justinian the Builder, Justinian the Great, and the Emperor who never sleeps. But with great upheaval comes great turbulence. A lot of the changes he was making in the city were not popular among the citizens, and in 532, this culminated in the Nika riots. Now, while it was quite normal to have some banter and scuffles after a chariot race at the Hippodrome, this turned into full-blown riots. The Nika riots are a story in itself for another time, but it resulted in the destruction of almost half of the city and approximately 30,000 deaths. Within this destruction was the original temple that was on the site of the now Hagia Sophia. And just around the corner from where these churches would be built, the ruined walls of the Hippodrome still stand as a reminder. The chaotic events in 532 would have left a long shadow over the construction of the Little Hagia Sophia, forever linking it to the dramatic reconstruction of its sister down the road. The two buildings, while different in construction and style, both reflected Justinian's grand vision for a renewed and glorified Constantinople. The Little Hagia Sophia stands as a monument to its saints. But who were Sergius and Bacchus? 200 years earlier, legend says that Sergius and Bacchus were high-ranking officers in the Roman army. But they had a secret. They were Christians, at a time when the empire was pagan. When their faith was discovered, they were tortured, humiliated, and eventually killed for their faith. Over the next century, as the Roman Empire converted to Christianity more, they became revered for their piety and martyrdom to the faith, and Sergius and Bacchus went on to become the spiritual protectors of the army. And the drama of this little church doesn't stop there. Just 20 years after its construction, still in Justinian's reign, these very walls sheltered Pope Vigilius from Justinian's soldiers. Yes, the same Justinian. Now, to cut a long, complicated story short, the Pope had been summoned to Constantinople because of his beliefs in the nature of Jesus. There was division in the church about whether Jesus was God or human or somewhere in between. And Justinian was trying to unite all of the parties together to try and bring some kind of harmony to the empire. And Vigilius's beliefs were starting to complicate things. And adding to this was the complication that the Pope spoke Latin, while in Constantinople most things were written in Greek. The emperor's soldiers attempted to arrest Vigilius, and he fled to this church for refuge. The attempted arrest caused riots in the streets of Constantinople. In the end, Vigilius conceded the point to Justinian and was allowed to leave after 8 years' captivity in the city. Unfortunately, on his way back to Rome, he died on the journey. Now, the name Little Hagia Sophia wasn't given to the church until much later after the Ottoman conquest. It comes from the Turkish Küçük Hagia Sophia Cami, which literally means Little Hagia Sophia Mosque. The building was likely a personal chapel for Justinian, being attached to the original Grand Palace that was here where he would have lived. You can see the remnants of the old palace just outside the city walls. The site is currently under refurbishment. Now, many changes would have been made to the building over the years, especially during its conversion to a mosque. Lots of windows and doors have been filled, there was a portico added over the entrance, and the original interior decoration was plastered over. The decorations you can see inside the church are later Ottoman additions. It was transformed into a mosque by Hussein Aya, the chief black eunuch of the Topkapi Palace, and his burial site is in the cemetery that's attached to the mosque. The minaret here was only added in 1762. Now, even though they share the same name, the construction is quite different from its big sister, the Hagia Sophia. But it did inspire the construction of the Rustam Pasha Mosque and the San Vitale in northern Italy. In fact, San Vitale gives us a glimpse of what the original decor may have looked like here. It has beautiful frescoes and decorations inside, but you can still see the amazing original Byzantine carvings around the rims and the columns. We can see the original inscriptions and dedications to Sergius and Bacchus from Emperor Justinian and his wife, Empress Theodora. The site's survival largely relies on its proximity to the city walls. Having been built just inside would have allowed it protection from the battles and bombardments that have happened over the centuries since. Whether you believe the legend or not, this history represents one of Constantinople's biggest second chances. It's a symbol of survival. A condemned man becomes emperor, and in return, he built something that would outlast his reign, his life, and his empire.